Welcome to RetroTeam. RetroTeam is a tool for high-performing teams in AI to identify strengths, weaknesses, group similar comments, and actually allow teams to run retrospective after an agile process, or just you want to understand your team's, um, mood on a project that you worked on, or just want to have conversations with your team and you want them to sort of put in some of their thoughts online. Um, I'm going to walk through how RetroTeam works. So when you first fire up RetroTeam and you've signed up, you get thrown into this dashboard. In this case, I already have some retrospective that I've completed. But let's say we want to create a new retrospective. So you go and click on this button here to create retrospective. That loads up and takes you to another screen where you are picking a template, and in this case we'll pick the start, stop, continue. You can either retro team December 15, 2024. You can select to start with an icebreaker. In this case we want the access level to be public. What that really means is anyone with a link can view it. You can also have private, where you as a facilitator have to sort of give access to anyone to see it, or only team members or part of your team can actually see this retrospective. So you click on start. It takes you to this icebreaker since you picked one. Within the icebreaker, you can generate new questions. And these are questions like, what sports would you like to complete if you were like in an Olympics? So this is one way to break the ice, get everyone talking and having conversations. There are different sections here, like general, virtual meeting, holidays, new stuff, funny, where you sort of pick different topics to talk through. Within this screen, there are a couple of settings here. One is you can essentially, set out a timer for. You can also have like sort of an alarm, like in this case, a telephone ringing. So if I made this maybe 1 second, for instance, and I ran through it, you would hear the telephone ring like, hey, this is done. You can pause it and cancel it out. You can also invite people in there. So you can either copy a link or you can send them an email, and it will send an invite to that person, and they can kind of join this retrospective. So while you're done with the icebreaker, you go into the actual retrospective. You click on start retrospective in this case, and that takes you to the actual retrospective board. Within this board, you have a couple of different things happening here. You have the stages here where you start with a capture, where you put in all the information you want. You go to groups, where you actually get to group all the comments, and vote, where you actually get to vote on the groups or each cards that have been placed in. And then the actions, where you now talk about what are the next things we can do, what are the action items based on what we just talked about as a team. On the top here, we have the AI credits. So as you keep using this, we have some AI features that I will walk you through in the different stages. Here it just kind of tells you how many is left. You can always go back to the icebreaker. If you click over here, it takes you to the icebreaker. So icebreaker can happen at any point in time. You don't necessarily have to happen when it starts. So we go back to retrospective here. You can also have a timer for each section to talk through things. Maybe you only want to spend 5 minutes talking about the capture, or 2 minutes for voting. You can do that as well, and you can also pick the different notifications that you want after it's done. In the settings, you can change the name of the board. You can also increase the amount of votes. 20 is the max here. You can show or hide comments from the authors, and I can walk through that as we do this. And you can lock the board. You can make this board also private. So if you made it public and you decided, okay, maybe I want to make this private because this is a conversation between members that I don't want to share with the rest of the organization. And you can also set out to have AI to group your comments or AI to help you with action items. So these are all set by default. And I will go ahead and start entering some of the information here. So right here, we now have all our comments. In this case, as you can see, Edo Page joined a bunch of, so you can have multiple people on this board, and they've all entered sort of their comments. So everyone's entered their comments, and now you're sort of at the stage where you want to sort of group these comments. One other thing you can do is, for each comment that you enter, you can make yourself anonymous. So if you don't want anyone to essentially know you entered something, I also did say I was going to show you some things on here where you can either hide the comments entirely, so nobody. So if you want this to be totally anonymous, you can hide that, and no one would ever see that. Also, at the same time, you can hide these comments from other members. So essentially, as you enter in the comments, it's private and no one can see it except when you get to the grouping or the voting stage. So, but this is automatically kind of set up where people cannot see each other's comments, so they don't get they don't get biased from seeing, oh, somebody entered this, so I should also say the same thing. So it's private by default, but you can also make that public where everyone can see it. So now we get to the next stage, which a lot of people kind of dread, which is, hey, now let's group everything. So that essentially that means like, let's read through all these comments and try to figure out which ones kind of go together. This is the power of AI, where we've added an AI tool that goes in and analyzes everything and essentially creates a group for you, creates a bunch of groups. And this is, very, very helpful for a lot of teams. As you can see, the groups, it's doing all the groups. It's created a bunch of groups for you, and just kind of figure out that a lot of these things need to be part of a group, like in this case, user focus and motivation. And so you can look through the cards and kind of see, okay, did this make sense? So I think it does, and you can accept them. As you accept them, they change to black, meaning that you've accepted these groups. And then you can also go ahead and group the ones that you feel are also part of a group yourself. So you can add them to a group, and you can essentially update this group name. Let's just call it Appy, for instance. And you can add tags that you feel kind of makes sense in there, or you can create your own custom tag, custom tag. And that tag gets saved. The importance of these tags is we use this information to analyze over time how your team has been feeling. If there's a lot of learnings that's been coming through, if there's a lot of custom roles and conversations that your team has been going through, we will use this to analyze and give you some key information about your team and about things you could do to improve your team, or things that you should keep doing to ensure the team is happy and healthy. So we've had all these groupings, and we're going to go ahead and accept some of them. Maybe team culture, we're not going to accept that, and we're going to accept this. So you've gone ahead and talk through this with your team. You've accepted stuff. You can always regenerate the grouping again if you don't like this group, and say, okay, do it again. And essentially it's just going to delete everything and start all over again with a new group. And then you go to voting, where it kind of asks you to confirm how many votes you want. Say we want 6 votes, we confirm that. And the users kind of go in and start making their votes as they go around. And so now we've got all our votes together. And in this whole process, you can also have some timing, where, say for instance, we have 2 seconds here. We click on that, and after 2 seconds you get a notification that it's done. So then you go to actions. This is where you now want to have conversations with your team in terms of what are the action items you want to do. And on the left here, you can sort of kind of see where you can select different stages to talk through. If you want to select everything, you would kind of see them all kind of being shown here, or you can kind of select each one, talk through it, And one thing we've done with AI is we've created some suggested action items that you could talk through. Like we picked 3 major ones that you could talk through, but none stops you from creating one. So say we want to talk about this first one and we want to assign it. We have different stages here, like to-dos, in progress, or done, and we can assign it to, say, Ito, for instance. We can also have a delivery date for that and create that. So here we're talking through this and creating action items. We go to the next one. We talk about things that we should do. And you can always regenerate some of these action items as well. Each time you do that, you're using up some AI credits. But you could say, okay, I'm going to use this as well, or maybe this guy here. We add that in there, and maybe we want this to be in progress because we already been working on something. We create that, and at each point when you get assigned an action item, you get a notification. You get an email and a notification that, hey, you've been assigned an action item to work on. So at this point, we're actually done with our retrospective. You can go ahead to your left here and click on Generate Report. And what it does is it closes out the retrospective and takes you to a page where it has like a summary of who the participants were. And we also use AI here to generate some patterns and trends that we identified, and also give you some advice on how you could improve the team or the projects. So if there were certain things in there that you probably should talk through, and we give reasons why you should do that. And then we start to break everything down, starting out with the action items that you talked about, the different topics you talked about within start and stop and continue, and we break them all out into the groups. In this case as well too, you can decide that I want to keep this private, so I don't want to show any of the authors in there. As you do that, now none of the authors show up in there. And one thing you could do is you can export this as a PDF. It would open up the print version of this, where you can essentially take this and share it with your team, either on Slack or email or whichever way that your team communicates. And when that's done, you can go back to retrospective or go back to your dashboard. In your retrospective screen, you now have like this download screen, and every time you click on this download screen, you would essentially see the same thing, which is the summary of everything that you talked through. You can always view this in a larger screen, where if you want to export it again, and you can go back to your dashboard and you see all the completed retrospective that you had, all the action items that you've created, and some of the notifications that you've gotten based on those action items and based on anything that you do. So this is RetroTeam in a nutshell. This is a really great tool for teams, and we hope that you really enjoy it. Thank you.